is Brenda Meller, and I'm live on Facebook, and I'm going to be going through some LinkedIn tips and doing some LinkedIn profile reviews for those of you who are in career transition. So I'm just kind of toggling back and forth between my desktop and my phone, and working for yourself. You know, the hard part is I can't say, hey, you know, to my neighbor, my coworker, I can't say, hey, can you hear me? Is it working? Is the sound okay? Is the audio working okay? So I'm relying on you guys to tell me, you know, whether or not you can see this live stream. So I'm going to give it just a second here. I'm trying to pull it up on my phone to see if the broadcast is in fact coming through. And I know there's always a couple second delay. It's like we're at the Grammys, the Emmys or whatever, and there's always a couple second delay between when you're actually starting a session and starting the broadcast rather, and then what people are seeing. So there may be a little bit of a delay here, but I think it's up. I'm on my Meller marketing page right now, and I think I can see the LinkedIn profile checklist up on screen. So I'm going to assume that you can see what I'm seeing. And when I toggle back and forth between what I'm showing up on screen, thanks, Dave. Hey, Dave Lambert's on. I'm going to say hi, Dave, and welcome. This is great because I want to know that you can see what I'm seeing up on screen, and I'm going to keep going here. So again, this is a LinkedIn profile review, and I set this session specifically for people who are in career transition. And those of you who follow me on social media have probably kind of been watching my blogs and watching my journey into entrepreneurship. And about a week or so ago, I did a Take Action Tuesday. I do these blogs, these status updates every week on LinkedIn. And I will always kind of ask my network, hey, if you're looking for a job, reply here and tell us what you're looking for. If you're hiring, tell us who you're hiring for. And this has actually made a couple of really great connections, you know, people being matched with employers and employers finding candidates who are eager to work. And I know this time of year can be very challenging. And I did a blog about this, you know, several years ago. This was back in 2002. My organization went through some restructuring, and I found myself a week before Thanksgiving not working and going through this whole process of career transition. And I didn't see it coming, and it was really devastating. And it kind of, you know, it makes you kind of look at things a lot differently. And what I found is through the process, there were so many great people helping me out. And I've always in the back of my mind thought I want to pay it forward and help others when I have the opportunity to do so. And as my business is ramping up, I always try to make an effort to work with chambers and nonprofits and other organizations on sharing the expertise and, you know, the insights I have to offer through my company. And I thought, why not do a Facebook Live only for those in career transition? So that's what I'm doing here today. And I'm going to start with just a quick review of, you know, of LinkedIn and what I'll be looking for on your profiles. And, you know, for those of you who are listening to this session, whether you're listening to this live or you're listening to this in the playback, I want you to know I believe in you. You will find an opportunity, and part of, you know, the message I want you to walk away with today is, you know, to have hope and to stay connected and to stay active with networking and everything. And, you know, it's just a matter of time and opportunity. And I remember when I was going through that transition process, I remember thinking, gosh, it's the end of the year. There's nobody who's hiring. Nobody's paying attention to the job boards and whatnot. But actually, that can work in your favor because there's not as many job postings that go out this time of year. And many people think that same philosophy. There's not a lot of jobs. The activity's slowing down because of the holidays, so I'm not going to look at all or whatnot. But there's less competition for people looking for jobs at this time of year. So, you know, you as a job seeker may have an advantage if you keep your foot firmly on the gas pedal through the end of the year. Because I know I've been in that hiring seat too, and sometimes we just don't have time to look through all the resumes and get the job postings up. But then the end of the year comes around and you find yourself with some time. And that's the time where you look at your resumes and you might be catching up on your LinkedIn activity. So you actually may find that, you know, you're reaching people at their desk or, you know, connecting with people and finding opportunities this time of year. So keep on with that and believe in yourself, and don't be afraid to reach out and ask others for help along the way too. All right, so I'm going to start with a review of my LinkedIn profile optimization checklist, and then I'm going to quickly look through my profile, and then I'm going to start looking at other profiles as well. And I think there were 4 people who submitted. Let me just look at my screen here. So I've got Scott, I've got Dave, I've got Patty, and I've got Rosemary. If anyone else is listening to this right now and you want to be added, I'll toggle back and forth between Facebook and LinkedIn during the session so I can add some additional profile views in here as well. I do have planned for the full hour, but if we get through everything in a half hour, we'll end a little bit sooner. So let's start with the profile checklist. And these are the things I'm going to be looking for as I go through your profile. So starting at the top, you have two areas for an image at the very top. You have your profile photo and you have your background image. And what I'm going to be looking for in your profile photo is that it's pleasant, smiling, professional looking. It's current, meaning if I saw you in person at a networking event, I would immediately recognize you. I wouldn't see a picture of you from 20 years ago. We've all aged. So we want to make sure that we are representative of the photo we're putting out there. So that's what I'm looking for. I'm also going to make sure that your face is about 50% or maybe even 60% of the circle. And I'm going to show you when we look at some profiles here in a minute, the importance of having that face be prominent in that circle space. I'm also going to look at your background image, and this is this rectangular area behind your profile. It provides you with a personal branding opportunity and you know, a way to distinguish yourself from other profiles that employers may be looking at. We're next going to look at your headline, and specifically what I'm going to look for here is to make sure that you don't use the words unemployed, in career transition, openly seeking opportunities, anything along that line which screams desperate. You are still a very marketable person, and regardless of the job title that you hold, you still have experience, and you should really be using that headline field to talk about who you are as a professional, what you can offer to a company. It doesn't need to match your job title, and you can and should consider using some job title keywords in your headline because it will help you to come up in search results, but it doesn't need to just be that. And more importantly, like I said, I want to make sure you don't have in career transition or unemployed or anything like that in that field. In terms of connections, I'm just going to see, do you have more than 10, which shows me you're active on LinkedIn? Not a magical number there, but more than 10. If I land on your profile, I would send you an invite to connect or accept your profile. If I see fewer than 10 on your profile, I kind of think, well, that's an inactive account. I'm not going to send you an invite out on. Your summary statement, you have 3 lines to get their attention, and then you've got 2,000 characters to tell your personal story. I want to make sure it's written in first person. This should not be the same description that you have at the top of your summary on your resume, and certainly can be a modification of that. But I want to look for your voice, you know, I words, me words, things of that nature. And I want to make sure that it's compelling, you know, having somebody land on your profile, you know, you've got them there, but you want to keep them there and keep them viewing that. So your summary is really important. And you can use this summary to tell people your story about your career transition journey. You can kind of let them know, what are you looking for next? What's your dream job, your dream industry? What skills are you hoping to bring into that next opportunity? And if there's specific geographic areas that you're targeting as well. Then we're going to look through your experience section on your LinkedIn profile. And I always like to start each of the employers in your experience section with maybe a 1-line description, what the company is. Certainly if it's a large company like a Ford or Beaumont Hospitals or something like that, people are familiar with those organizations, but a lot of the mid-sized and smaller organizations, people may not be familiar with what that company is. So providing that description helps to kind of explain what experience you're bringing to the table. And then you can certainly fill in, you know, your role, what you did for that organization, and key achievements, really focusing on what you did that was above and beyond the job description, and the things that you're most proud of in that role. Then we're going to look at your endorsements section, and this is kind of, it's called skills and endorsements, and we're going to look at what are the top 3 skills that you have on your profile, because those are more often than not the only 3 skills that people see. So we want to make sure that you're positioning your strengths at the very top of that list. And also, you know, fill out the rest of the 50 because it does help with your SEO, your search engine optimization, which means how often you're coming up to the top of your search results. And then we're going to talk about recommendations, how many recommendations you've given people on LinkedIn and how many recommendations you've received. Now, I always like to see that you've given a few more than you've received. It just shows good social media etiquette, kind of shows that you're paying it forward and helping others and acknowledging the talents of others. It just shows that you're a good person. And I like to see that you have at least 1 to 2 in each of the categories, both given and received in the current year. So that kind of covers off my checklist. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop on over to my profile, and I'm going to walk through mine to start with, and then we're going to probably reference this as I go through some of your profiles as well. So we have header image in here, and you're going to notice we have my headshot photo, and my headshot photo was actually done by a local photographer. His name's Scott Lawrence of Scott Lawrence Photography. Phenomenal photographer, and highly recommend him. So you can see here, pleasant, smiling. My face is about 50 or maybe 60% of the circle, so you can see me clearly. Now, this is important that it's that large because of the fact that about 50% of web traffic nowadays is done on a mobile device. So if I had from head to toe, or even from my top of my head to my waist, my face would be a little bit further zoomed back, and it's harder to kind of see me. So that's one important thing. And also, you know, this is a marketing tip as well. So think about if you look at profiles sitting next to each other, kind of looking at one profile and another and whatnot. And if your headshot photo is a little bit further back, meaning your face is maybe 20% or even 15% of that circle, you look less important, you look less prominent, and you look less approachable. So the closer in that your face is zoomed, the more approachable you seem. And guys, your goal is to make your profile as attractive as possible to your target companies, to those employers. So let's zoom in on your face a little bit. And I'm going to show you this technique right now. So if you click on this pencil icon, which is at the top of your profile, and then right next to your profile photograph, you're going to see another pencil icon there. I want you to go ahead and click on that second pencil icon. And now you're in this area where you can actually zoom in. So if I had just uploaded what, you know, the original source file that Scott had given me, my face is kind of set back and a little bit further back. I can actually zoom this in and, you know, just focus in a little bit more on my face. And what I'm looking for in this circle, it's almost this grid of 9 squares. And I try to keep from the top of my head to the bottom of my chin, filling up those first 2 squares. So that keeps it about 60% of the circle. So then once you click on apply, you're going to see that your profile photograph is now zoomed in a little bit more. So that's how you do the zoom in thing. I'm just going to discard because I don't need to save that. In the background behind my photo, you see I have this header image, and you know, for me, I'm an independent marketing consultant. So what I do is I actually use this space to promote my business. And once every few months, I'll put in a new message in there. Sometimes it's a LinkedIn tip, like you see here. Sometimes it's a marketing tip. But I certainly could use that space for, you know, just scenery or things that align with the marketing and social media industry, or maybe LinkedIn icons or something that's a little bit different in the background. But what I want you to think about is this background image, this rectangular image that's behind your headshot photo. Think about this as if LinkedIn is giving you free advertising for who you are as a candidate. And what do you want people to know about you? And think about everything you're putting on your LinkedIn profile, making sure that is pinpointed and lined up to where you want to go next in your career. So if I want people to know that I'm an accountant and I'm passionate about balancing books and dollars and cents, maybe I pick a stock photo or image or something like that that aligns with the accounting industry. Maybe I'm really focused on leadership and management. So maybe you use something like a picture of mountains or a picture of winding paths or something like that. Maybe I really love reading and staying up on you know, current trends. So maybe it's a stack of books at a library or magazines or things like that. But again, just think about using that space strategically and using it intentionally. Everything should line up on your profile to tell people who you are and what you can bring to their organization. All right. Next thing we have is underneath my name, Brenda Meller, you see I have my headline. I'm going to highlight it here just so we can look at this area together here. So this is called your headline. It is by default, LinkedIn will put job title at company. And if you are no longer with your employer, I want you to make sure you take out your employer name in there. If you click on the pencil icon, you can see this is where you can go in and edit the headline field. So even if I am a director of marketing and I don't work for a company anymore, I'm still a director of marketing because that's the experience that I have. Whether I'm being paid for it or not right now, that is the experience that I have. That's what I'm qualified to do. I am not an accountant, nor am I a CFO or an architect or anything else. I am still a marketing director. That is part of my identity. I take that with me when I move on to my next opportunity. So what I like to see in the headline, though, is you've got 120 characters to tell your story. So tell people who you are and, you know, maybe the industry that you're in, your level of expertise. Maybe it says experienced marketing manager who's passionate about social media. So think about telling your story in those 120 characters or less. who are you and what makes you different from other job seekers that are in that category. And what I want you to think about here too, so let's just use, I'm going to go into Scott's profile here for just a second. So Scott is a VP of operations. So Scott, I'm going to use this as an example. So I'm going to put myself in the mindset of a hiring manager. Now, if I go into my search bar at the top and I type in VP of operations and I click on the search bar, I'm going to click on people and I'm just going to see who comes up in my search results on LinkedIn. And you'll see here as I'm scrolling down the list, you know, Vice President of Operations, Vice President of Media Operations at the Outland Group. So she has her job title at company. Other people have job title at company. This person is a marketing strategist. So it looks like she has some past experience with operations as well. Vice President at Identity, and Brandon works in social media, so he gets this, but he has social media and digital marketer helping companies understand, I'm guessing is what it says there. So you can see he's expanding his out a little bit. So if I was a hiring manager looking for my next VP of operations and I click on, and this is the search results list I get, this is really what I have to go on to evaluate candidates from one to another. So think about how can you set yourself up so that you're using this headline field, not just to describe the job title, but to differentiate yourself a little bit. So what keywords and phrases? Here's one on here. Stephanie Bergeron, she's got, you know, committed to community on here. She's retired. But other, you know, this other gentleman right here, Steve, he's got CFO, controller, VP of finance operations, director of finance operations. This is really great because Steve may be looking for an opportunity in one of those areas, and he's using multiple keywords so that he can come up in the search results. So do think about that technique there. All right, underneath the headline, you've got your summary statement. So you've really got 3 lines to capture their attention. And if you have time, if you're looking at this on your computer right now, I want you to look at your summary statement on your desktop. I also want you to pull up your phone and look at your summary statement on your mobile device. And you're going to notice it's still 3 lines, but it cuts off a little bit sooner. I think it cuts off for me at about optimize their efforts. So that's how people that see, what people see on mobile of my summary. So I want to make sure that that first sentence is really the most compelling part of my story, because my goal is to get them to stay on my profile and really to click on show more. And I'm just going to expand mine here, guys, so you can see, but I use just about every one of those 2,000 characters they give me on LinkedIn. And I'm going to show you my dashboard here in a second, but what I have found is the more you can give in terms of content on your profile, the more likely you will come up in search results. And that helps with the technology end of LinkedIn, that optimization part. The other part is when somebody lands on your profile, it kind of gives you a chance to tell your story. This is me speaking in the first person, describing who I am, what I have to offer on my profile. I also put in a list of keywords, and I titled this section specialties. So this is really written not for you as a human being to read. It's written for the computer to read through, and for me to come up in search results for any of these keywords that I specified in here. So do keep that in mind, and feel free, guys, to look at my profile as often as you'd like as you're working on your profile. This is what I do for a living, and I try to kind of optimize every section of my profile. You see also here I put in some personal goals and some philosophies or mantras. It gives you a little bit of a glimpse into who I am as a person, who I am as a leader, and who I would be as a contributor if I were to join your team. So some of those philosophies are in there. I do have some media in here as well. And you can upload JPEGs, photos, links to websites, links to blogs, links to podcasts, you know, any area in there. And that really can help to differentiate you as a candidate. All right. So now before we go into the experience, I want to just pause briefly on the dashboard, and you can kind of see the results I'm getting here, guys. This profile views, this is within the past 90 days. So you can see I'm fairly consistent with the number of profile views that I'm getting on my LinkedIn profile. And these profile views are driven in part by the fact that I'm active on LinkedIn every day with status updates, but it's also because my profile is optimized. I'm getting people to land on it and they're coming back to it. So that's a good thing. Search appearances, you can see in the past week, I've come up in searches 358 times, and it's telling, you know, on here too, where the searchers are coming from. So what organizations they work with. This may be helpful to you if you're applying for positions and you're kind of curious, are people looking at my profile, where are they coming from? So that may help you out. Okay, so that's just a little bit of the overview of your dashboard. Going down into my experience section, you see I start with a 1-sentence description of my company. Now, for me, I'm independently employed, so I'm describing the services that I offer and then some of my background with the organization. I do include the specialties as a keyword list in here, similar to the keywords I have in the top portion of my profile in my summary. These keywords are the ones I want to be found for on LinkedIn. Redundancy is okay. Duplication of text works in your favor on your LinkedIn profile. So if I want to be found for social media and for content marketing and public speaking, I want to make sure that those keywords appear several times throughout my profile. So do keep that in mind. You can also add media into that section. So if you are doing any side hustle work while you're in career transition, do keep in mind that you can add, any of those projects in your experience section. All right, and you can see I've done similar, similar descriptions for my other experience sections on my LinkedIn profile as well. And in my skills and endorsements, as I mentioned earlier, only the top 3 show. Now, LinkedIn orders these based on how many times you've been endorsed for each of the categories. And you might find that those really aren't the top 3 that you want to have at the top of your profile. So not too long ago, I added in social selling. So when I first put it there, I had 0 endorsements, and now I'm up to 12. I don't worry as much about the number of endorsements. I'm more concerned with, are these the top 3 things I want to be known for? And what you can do is if you click on this pencil icon, you can actually, if something is in the top 3 that you don't want there, maybe I don't want public speaking, I want marketing strategy. So I unpin public speaking, I pin marketing strategy, and let's say I want marketing strategy to go to the top, then I could just drag it up there. And that's a way of kind of reorganizing those skills on your profile. I'm not going to save the changes because I want to keep them as is. But really important here, guys, the top 3 are the most important. Think about the 3 skills that you want to really be known for. Even think about the skills that are coming up in those jobs that you're applying for and the ones that are critical to the positions. Make sure those are at the top of your profile. And you certainly can and should add as many as up to 50 skills on your profile. If you're struggling with coming up with that list of skills, what I would say is look at other people who share your job title, just like I did in that example earlier when I searched for VP of Operations. I'm going to look at their profiles and see what skills do they have, and that may give me some inspiration and skills I could add to my profile as well. All right, and then recommendations. Again, what I look for here is that you have a couple current in the current year that you've received, and then a couple in the current year that you have given as well. And you can see on mine here, I've got Joe Shadowski, and Joe's one of my clients. He works for a company called Shelving Inc., and I've been doing some LinkedIn team training with his group over there. And he gave me a recommendation, and I gave him a recommendation. I've been really impressed with his leadership of the organization, and he's very open-minded about social media and how to use it. So that's a technique. Gosh, think about people in your network that you could exchange recommendations with. So if you're struggling with who to ask, think about those people that would say, hey, Brenda, is there ever anything you need? Let me know. Those people that they know you're in career transition, let them know, yes, I do need something. Could you give me a recommendation on LinkedIn? And that really helps when people are looking at your profile. All right, so that covers my profile. So what I'm going to do now is, Scott, you're going to be my first profile review. I'm not sure, Scott, if you're on here. I'm going to pop on over to Facebook just for a second to see. Hello, Richard is on with us. Hello, Richard. How are you today? Charlie Wolberg is on, or he was on. I'm not sure if you're still here or not, Charlie, but if you're still on, welcome. Thanks for joining us. All right, so I'm not sure if Scott's on here, but I spoke with Scott this week. We were actually both at a Motor City Connect event led by the famous and always entertaining Terry Bean. And Terry was talking about 2019 planning and how to position yourself for success in the new year. And Scott and I both met there, and Scott is in career transition. So I told him I would give his profile review. All right, Scott, here we go. So profile photo. So you're probably going to know the first thing I have to offer here is in terms of your headshot photo, I'd like to see your face zoomed in a little bit. And I'm going to toggle back and forth just so you can kind of see this. So Scott's profile, my profile. Scott's profile, my profile. So do you notice there that my profile photo is a little bit more zoomed in? It looks a little bit more kind of approachable, personable. So Scott, that's number one thing for you to do. Zoom in on that profile. It's going to make you seem more impressive, more approachable. And, you can still see that you've got a suit and tie on. You don't need to show that whole thing. Just a little bit of the neckline in there will show. But again, just zoom in on your face a little bit more on your profile there. All right, background here. So we've got leading organizations to achieve peak performance. I love the mountains and the view in the background. The one thing I would suggest, Scott, is look at that in mobile. And my guess is you're looking that up on mobile, this text might be a little bit hard to read. So you may want to consider just zooming that in a little bit more. But do be aware that on desktop, your headshot photo goes on the left alignment. In mobile, your headshot photo is going to be in the center. So make sure you don't hide any of the text in the background there. All right, so let's look at your job title. You got VP Operations / Manufacturing Executive, Business Strategist, Startups to Scaling Organizations, Lean Six Sigma. So it's clear to me, based on this description, that you're a very experienced executive, and by leading with operations and manufacturing, that tells me that those are the areas that you're most skilled in. So those are good keywords in there, and it says startups to scaling organizations. So my guess there is you work with organizations of every shape and size in there. So summary statement, what I'd like to see there is just let's flip that into first person. So you can say I'm an experienced VP of operations who partners with, so just changing it to first person there. And you're a highly skilled and influential leader. So that sounds like, you know, it's a resume summary in there. You can maybe just take that phrase out, highly skilled and influential leader. They're going to see that based on recommendations on your profile or things. And I think you could save on the keywords at the top of the profile here. And I'm comfortable in the boardroom as well as getting my hands dirty on the shop floor. You know, comfortable in the boardroom, I think is a good phrase. It shows that you're rubbing elbows with the executive team there, which is good. I love this last sentence here. My passion for helping people and constant learning is accompanied by the thrill of operations and productions. Scott, I might even challenge you to flip that and actually lead in your summary statement with that. So you want to make sure that you're compelling, that you know, it's evident why you do what you do and what your skill set is. And I really like that statement because it draws me in a little bit more. So my passion for helping people and constant learning is accompanied by the thrill of operations and production. Period. I am a VP of operations who partners with ... So maybe just flipping that around a little bit. And let's see. So you said if your organization is not operating at peak performance, like connect here. So this makes me think that you may be doing some side consulting right now. It's not clear to me if you're seeking full-time only or in addition to project work. So maybe spell that out. While I'm looking for my next full-time opportunity, I am staying active in the business community through project and retainer work as a part-time operations consultant. So maybe kind of specify that. I love how you've got your specialties. Now, Scott, you're using a bulleted list. I just used a running paragraph list. Either strategy is fine there. All right, so let's see what else you've got on your profile. PVS Chemicals, and I believe, Scott, you're no longer with that organization. If you are doing the peak performance solution consulting, what I would recommend is changing actually omitting your end date from peak performance so that it's showing as a current position, and then putting your end date on PVS Chemicals. Just so people can kind of see you are actively doing the consulting and ready and open for new opportunities. So that might be something to put in there, and he's got a good description in there. So some nice things happening there. Education is filled out. You've got some volunteer experience, which is great. Skills and endorsements. So let's see the top 3 things he's listing, the things I would assume would be on his profile. Operations management, yes. Strategic planning, yes. And I'd say lean manufacturing, yes. I think those all make sense. All right, recommendations. So the last time, Scott, that you received a recommendation is 2011. So certainly try to get some recent recommendations from the current year. If you can find some people that you work with at PVS Chemicals, that would be great because it can kind of speak to your recent experience. But maybe other people that are with your volunteer organizations or other groups. Certainly somebody from U of M would be impressive to have on your profile. And then even the Humane Society, maybe somebody with that organization could give you a recommendation. Let's look at recommendations that you've given, and you have been keeping up with these. You know, you do have one for the current year, so some good work done in there. All right, Scott, so that kind of covers it off. Let's see what else you have in here. One other quick thing I'm going to look at is see contact info. Oh, it's not letting me. Looks like my LinkedIn is going a little slow here. So I just want to make sure that his email is his personal email. Sometimes when we go through career transition, we forget to change our employer email, but that's off of there, which is good. All right, so I'm going to pop over to Facebook here. So let's see who's on here. So Scott, you are on. So hopefully that was helpful for you. If you have any additional questions, let me know in chat. I'm going to pop back and forth here. Charlie Wahlberg, now I'm curious, Charlie, what do you have as your skills? I'm going to put you on the spot here. Let's see, Charlie, I have to confess, I use your profile sometimes to demonstrate people a clever use of a headshot photo in here. My computer's going really slow. I think LinkedIn knows I'm working on this right now. So Charlie has, he works for his own company, Curve Detroit, and he's got this image of, this curved road sign in the background behind his profile. Charlie, I know you have a header graphic behind you. I think my LinkedIn is going slow. There it is, and all these cool speaking engagements and whatnot in the background there. So really cool. Nice to see you on here. All right, Dave Lambert. So let's go on to your profile. I'm going to refresh here just to make sure the background there. So Dave, my guess is you may still have the default image behind your LinkedIn, and that's why we're seeing the teal blue with the interconnected dots and lines. And I would recommend, changing that as soon as you can. One of the sites that I use, I'm just going to pop over into this other window, is Pexels.com. So Pexels is a site that has free stock photography. You don't need to worry about licensing or which one's free, which one do you pay for. So if I was looking at Dave's profile, it says Communications and Compliance Specialist. I'm seeing the word communications coming up several times in here. So if I were to search on Pexels just for the word communications, nothing coming up in there. So let's say communication. So here's a bunch of different symbols for the word communication. So, Dave, maybe if there's something on here that's kind of resonating with you, you could pull it off. Maybe it's writing, so let's see what I find for writing. Typewriter, that's kind of cool historical thing. So maybe there's some other images in here that you could think about pulling in on the background there. And Dave, you may want to look for other profiles on LinkedIn, people who work in communications, and see what are they using in their background. All right, headshot photo, and I'm going to go back to mine, and we're going to do this kind of toggle back and forth. So again, Dave, just to kind of see, yours is a little bit more zoomed in, but I'd like to see it even more zoomed in. I'd like to see your face be about 60% of that circle, just a little bit more prominent in there. All right, your headline says Communications and Compliance Specialist. Now you do have 120 characters in there, Dave, so what I would suggest is keep that in there, lead with that. But then maybe you do what I do, and I use this barrel symbol, which is this straight up and down mark. It's right above the enter key on my keyboard, but it kind of separates words and phrases. So, and I do the I help blank with blank formula. So I help people and businesses with marketing and social media, and as a consultant, that kind of says, who are the audiences I serve and what services do I provide for them? So that's one technique, and then I have LinkedIn coach, public speaker, marketing consultant. So my job title, if you will, is really marketing consultant, but I don't have that on the front end because I want to describe to people what it is they have to offer. So I would just say, Dave, could you add a couple more keywords in there and maybe even pull from other keywords you have throughout your profile? If I'm looking at your summary, nonprofit, maybe you have communications and compliance specialist, and then that barrel, nonprofit communications, barrel government communications, barrel public speaking. I don't know, think about the things that are kind of top of mind that you want in your next position and put those in your headline. All right, and then in your summary statement, Dave, you've got 2,000 characters. You're using it in first person, which is good. I am an experienced communications specialist. I'd like to, encourage you, you're in the communications field, Dave, so I think you could probably tell a little bit more of your story there. And think about if I were meeting you at a networking event, and I'm either a prospective employer for your dream job or a prospective client because I see you do your own business. So, and I'm interested in either hiring you as an employee or hiring you to work with. So what do you want to tell me about yourself? What skills did you bring that to the position? How are you helping your clients? Why are you passionate about what you're doing? Just to try to draw that person in a little bit more and make a stronger connection there. So I think, you've got 2,000 characters total to use in here, so just expand out in that summary statement is my suggestion there. All right, so you've got self-employed in here, Dave, and what I would recommend is you can actually create a company page for yourself on LinkedIn. Whether you have an LLC or an incorporated business or anything, you could still create a company page on LinkedIn. And what you could do, Dave, is just, give it a name. Maybe it's just Lambert Communications or something simple. And what you do here, Dave, is you go under the work icon, scroll all the way down to the bottom where it says create a company page, and then you would just type in, and I'm not going to actually set this up, and I'm just going to show you on here. Let's see if there's a Lambert Communications on here. So maybe, I don't know if that is your company. Maybe, you know, you put LLC or something, I don't know, on there. But think of what company name you could create, and then you just click on I verify, and it creates the page. So it's really easy to do. It's free to set up a company page. And the bonus is then instead of saying self-employed, it kind of legitimizes your business. You know, you can see on mine, I have Meller Marketing, and when people click on that logo, it takes them to my company page, which is really a mini version of my website. Sure, I'd love to get you to pop over to my website, but many people don't want to leave LinkedIn yet. So that's an opportunity of creating that company page. And it looks like you do have a self-employed page on here, but it's actually linked to a company page that's called self-employed. This is not your company, it's just a generic page. And this isn't you. This is headquartered in Victoria. I don't know where that's at. That's Canada or where that is, but that's not you and your company. So I would say get your own company page set up, Dave, as soon as you can. Walk through those steps in the process I just showed you, and then even look at, you know, Meller Marketing as an example and how I've set that up. Okay. All right. So what else? In your experience section, Dave, as I said earlier, I'd like to see for each of your employers, starting with a 1 to 2 sentence description. So you can use, you know, even the text they have in here. You know, and here it's, we are a nonprofit. So you could say, you know, HAP is a nonprofit Michigan-based company and subsidiary. So you could use their language and flip it over. And then in your experience section, I'd also like to see a description in the role of senior marketing communications specialist, comma, and then talk about your key achievements, what you did during your time there. And same thing for these other positions. And what I would suggest here too, Dave, is City of Troy. Let me just see, do they have a company page on LinkedIn? Because what I'd like to do is make sure that gets linked to, and they do have a company page on LinkedIn. So what you can do, Dave, if you go into your profile, I'm going to go on mine here for a second because I can't do this on your profile. I'm going to go into my profile on LinkedIn, and I'm just going to show you. So when I click on the pencil icon in the experience section, and I'm going to delete out Meller Marketing here just for a second. And when I type in City of Troy, Michigan, you can see, then it would be linked to the City of Troy's website, their company page rather on LinkedIn. I'm going to discard that because I don't want to save the changes. But for each of those employers, Dave, if they do have a company page, add it in. It's something that's kind of subliminal, or I don't know, it's human nature. When we see a logo of a company next to your employer on LinkedIn, it legitimizes, yes, you actually worked there. When I see this gray avatar, it makes me question, did he really work there, or is it easy to say that he worked there? So I would encourage you to fill that out and then think about the keywords and phrases that you want to be found for, and make sure that all of those past experiences, the keywords and the experiences that you have that line up with where you want to go next, that you filled out each of those employer sections. Okay. And again, Dave, feel free to look at my profile. You can look at some of my past experiences and see how I've filled that section out. All right, skills and endorsements. So top 3, marketing, strategic planning, and training. Now I'm seeing a little bit of a disconnect here, Dave, because at the top you said communications and compliance specialist, but I'm not seeing communications or compliance in any of those top 3. So I would recommend going in and just modifying, you know, you can unpin and then you can pin communications or compliance in the top 3. You want to make sure that the top 3 things that you want to be known for appear in the top 3. What I like to say is people are lazy. And what I mean by that, I don't really think people are lazy. But most people are not going to click on show more to dig through and see, do you actually have communications experience? They're just going to make a judgment call based on what they see as your top 3 skills. And everything should be lining up with, is he experienced and qualified for this opportunity? And everything that's visible in your profile should back that up. All right, recommendations. Dave, you don't have any that you've received. And this is surprising to me because you've got such an impressive career background here. So I would say, again, just, you know, if you have any clients you're working with right now, ask them for a recommendation. If there's anybody that could give you a recommendation from HAP, you know, whether it's coworkers, former managers, vendors, you know, employees that you've worked with over there, ask them to give you a recommendation on LinkedIn. City of Troy, you know, ask somebody on the, you know, who serves in the city with you to give you a recommendation there. So try to kind of build up a couple more recommendations on the receive side. You have given some, and the last time you gave one was somebody in September of this year. So you have some recency there too. So good work there. All right, Dave, hopefully that helps out. I'm going to pop over to Facebook here and see if you're on here. I think, Dave, you were on here earlier, so I think you hopefully should have heard that review. All right, Patty, you're up next. Hey, Patty, how are you doing today? Patty is joining us from Chicago, I believe. And Patty and I have a similar background in marketing leadership. So, Patty, we've got a great profile photo on there. Your headshot is about 60% of the circle, which is perfect. So right away, I would suggest let's get something in the background in this rectangular area. And I'm going to go back to Canva because I know Canva has marketing images. So if I type in the word marketing and I spell it correctly, I'm going to see there's a bunch of different images that have to do with marketing in the background. And let's say I wanted to use something like this. It's actually going to take like a rectangular portion. It's almost like, you know, this much of the screen. So do be aware of, you know, proper sizing there. I actually use canva.com to create an image that is exactly the size, so I don't have to worry about the dimensions in there. And if you go into this pencil icon, Patty, and you can see if you mouse over this pencil at the top, it's going to tell you create the image that's 1584 by 396. So I use canva.com and I can upload an image from Pexels into Canva and I have something that's perfectly sized, so I don't need to worry about cropping in the background. All right, so that takes care of your header image in the background. So your headline reads marketing professional, brand strategy, product promotion, communications. So really focus there in terms of what experience you bring to the table. You do have 120 characters total in here, Patty. So what I would say is expand that out a little bit. And you could even think about, you know, you've got, you know, 2 of these barrels things in here. You could just use 1 in there and that gives you 2 extra characters to work with. But just expand that out a little bit. And what you might want to do, Patty, is as you're searching for positions, I'm going to look at your profile here. So channel marketing director, so it looks like you've been a VP role and you've served in a director role. So if I look up in my search, marketing director, and I'm going to search for people that have marketing director in the results. So I'm looking at these results, and this was LinkedIn is serving to me because I'm based in Metro Detroit. Do this for yourself, and you're going to see what are the results coming up for the Chicago area. And as you're looking through here, just kind of notice the headline. So here I'm seeing Savannah, Associate Director of Marketing and Communications Strategist. So it's kind of telling you what level she's at. Kathleen is saying experienced, passionate marketing leader focused on growth. So it's differentiating her a little bit from other people. Kim is a director and she has her company. Karen, Senior Manager, Marketing Communications. Here we have another marketing director at company name. So you just kind of scan these through and see what are other people putting in this field, and then how do you differentiate yourself? Are you a creative marketing director like Danielle here, or are you, you know, like we had in Kathleen's, you know, a passionate marketing leader? So how do you differentiate yourself in that headline? So give that a little bit of thought, and I would just say expand that out. I think what you have on here is really nice, but I think you could expand that a little bit. All right, summary statement. So as I talked about earlier, I'd like to see this in first person. So a simple way of changing that right now, Patty, is just to say, I am a dynamic marketing leader with demonstrated success, increasing market share, etc. So what I would challenge you to do, though, Patty, is just like I told Dave earlier. Let's say you and I are meeting at a networking event. I have an opening for a marketing director or a VP of marketing role, and this is your dream job. And I'm interested in talking to you more about it. So now you've got my attention. So now what are you going to tell me about yourself? What you have on here sounds very much like a resume summary description, which is nice, but I'd like to see more of your story. So what would you tell that person? You would say, well, I'm a passionate marketing leader. I'm really known for my focus on teamwork and getting results. My background's in brand strategy, and I've always been passionate about helping companies build upon their marketing and making sure that we're supporting the brand. So tell a little bit of that story and use more of that first-person conversational tone. And Patty, feel free to look at my profile. I mean, I went through a career transition not too long ago, and I was kind of first looking at full-time marketing leadership positions, and then I decided there's a whole market for people like me in marketing consulting, and I decided to stay on that side, and I'm really loving it. But I was using my description for a little while there, similar to what you're doing. So look up other people's summary descriptions on LinkedIn, and I think you could expand on that. You've got 2,000 characters total to work with, so just expand on that. And then Patty, similar to what I had in my summary section of my profile, underneath my summary I have media that I've showcased. And it could be podcasts or YouTube videos or websites where you've blogged, or maybe showcase work samples for things that you've worked on in the past. So as a marketer, you know, it's really hard sometimes to do this, but you really need to market yourself. Position yourself, show your strengths, so show what you have to bring to the table for people. All right. And then let's see what else we've got on here. So your most recent position was Channel Marketing Director. So you may just want to describe what is Invesco Limited. I'm not from the Chicago area, so I'm not familiar with the organization. So maybe just kind of describe, and again, if I click on their logo, it's going to take me to their company page. And I could just pull a description. You as a marketer, I mean, you probably know how to do this. Just pull a description in here of the company. So just one line, you don't need to do a lot of work marketing them, but I think that would help just to kind of give a little bit of the description in the background. And then for every one of these other employers, Patty, if they do have a company page on LinkedIn, try to make sure that those are linked to their profile so that we're getting rid of the gray building avatar. Now you may have a case, just like I have on my profile, most of my employers are linked. Media Play, Musicland Corporation is no longer in business, so I can't do anything there. But do try to think about each of those, link them where you can. And instead of, you know, just duplicating what you have on your resume, Patty, what I would encourage you to do is think about things that are relevant from each of those positions that would position you for your next position. So it doesn't need to be a running list of everything that you have on your resume, but really focusing in on what are the skills and keywords that you want to use in your next position, and adding those from your experience and just kind of modifying those in that list a little bit. All right, let's see what else we've got on here. Skills, so marketing strategy, that makes sense. Leadership, that makes sense. And marketing communications, all of those things make sense. And I would just encourage you, Patty, to make sure that you're using all 50. I think you could definitely increase this list and make sure that all 50 are filled out. Now you do have, you know, certain words like finance and financial planning as keywords in there. And what I'm seeing on your profile is marketing. So if you run into a situation where you're running out of keywords, you might want to think about omitting those and using more marketing keywords, you know, marketing strategy, brand development, and omitting words that are not relevant. So every one of these keywords should be a skill you want to use in your next position. Kind of think about it through that lens. All right, recommendations. So received, you've got some from the current year, perfect. And given, you've got the same number and from the current year as well. And I think you've done the similar technique as me. I see Tammy, you guys have exchanged recommendations, perfectly fine. So I would just encourage you, I'd like to see one or two more that you've given than you've received. And the last time you gave someone a recommendation was April. So think about somebody in your network that you could give a recommendation to. Could be a employee, boss, former boss, vendor, somebody you've served in your volunteer roles with. I see that you're on the school board. You served on the school board, so maybe somebody from those volunteer organizations, but think about giving maybe one more recommendation. All right, so that covers it for Patty. Patty, hopefully that was helpful. If you have any specific questions you want me to answer, let me know. And I'm going to move on. I think this might be, actually, I've got one more. This is the last one. This is Rosemary. And if I haven't covered you off, we're going to end this session at noon today. But I'll finish off Rosemary and then we'll wrap this up here. All right, so Rosemary, so here's what I'm seeing on here. You're in the greater Detroit area, so we're in the same area here. Headshot photo, I think you've done a great job there. Your head zoomed in to the 60% level, and I think it looks really nice there. Background, same thing as I talked about with the others. Let's get this default out of here and let's upload something that's relevant. So what you're telling us about yourself is oncology, science writer and communicator, medical science liaison candidate, diagnostics and clinical research. I'm having a little bit of a hard time, and I'm not in that medical industry, but I'm having a hard time figuring out what it is that you're seeking in your next position from this headline. If I was looking at this as face value, the position I'm seeing is science writer and communicator, diagnostics and clinical research. That's what I'm thinking you're searching for. But again, you may just want to think about in that headline, putting in a job title or two that is really specific. What are you qualified for and what are you looking for in your next position? The algorithm on LinkedIn, the way that it works, there's this magical formula that goes into it. And part of the algorithm says, if you want to be found for a specific type of a job title, it has to appear someplace in your headline. So do consider that. And you've done a good job of maximizing those 120 characters in here. I just want to think about it. To me, it feels like there's a lot going on in here and I'm not quite sure what you're looking for. So let me keep reading on and see if I can kind of figure this out. So you have your summary statement. Looks like you've got that expanded out. So this does read similar to resume. So again, I'd like to see this flipped over to the first person. Even starting with, I am an accomplished life scientist with experience in translational cancer and community-based research. Very impressive here. So again, Rosemary, think if I'm at a networking event and I am a hiring manager at your dream job, your dream company, and I have an open position at my company, you've applied for it, and they say, well, tell me about yourself. And what would you say? I'm passionate about the medical community, and I've always been very focused on research, and whatever that story is, that's what I want to see on your summary statement here. So write your summary for your target audience. Don't write it the same way you would a resume. So let's see what else you have in here. Let's connect. Looking for new opportunities in medical affairs, MSL, medical education, communications, or clinical research. Interested in positions in Metro Detroit and or remote home-based opportunities. So you're giving a little bit of that geography. So specifically, I'm not sure, Rosemary, what job title level you're looking for. I don't know what MSL stands for. I'm guessing people in the medical industry probably know what that means. But just be as specific as you can, specific job titles, or you've been very specific on the industry, medical education, communications, or clinical research. So that's good there too. The more specific you can be with that, the better that helps your readers on here. All right, so let's look out on here, and you are a visiting assistant professor at Oakland University. So again, like I said earlier, maybe just click on the Oakland University page and then, grab a sentence or two from the beginning, just for people who are maybe not in Metro Detroit or aren't familiar with Oakland University, just to give them that context. And then you could say, if you wanted, you could put this in the first person too, but I think what you have in here is fine. It brings in the keywords and phrases appropriately there. And it looks like you've also been an adjunct at Macomb Community College. You've done a lot of teaching. So I'm wondering if you're looking for more teaching opportunities or a full-time teaching opportunity. If so, maybe add that into your summary statement. I'm open to full-time teaching opportunities at colleges and universities. Maybe mention that as well. All right, let's see what else we've got in here. So scrolling down to, you've got some good volunteer experience in here, your skills and endorsements. So the top 3 things are the things you want people to know that are your greatest strengths. So you have university teaching, preclinical translational research, and oncology. If I click on show more, there's a lot of other things that are on here. Don't worry as much about how many endorsements you're getting. Focus more on, have you used all 50, and are these the 50 that are most relevant for you? But again, what I'm seeing at the top of your list here is university teaching, and that's not matching what I see in your headline nor what I see in your summary statement. So if teaching is what you're looking for, maybe just be more direct with, I'm openly seeking teaching opportunities in there. And then just look at those top 3. Are those the 3 things you want people to know about you on your profile? All right, and I think that's it. This is the last profile that we have for today, and we've got about 2 minutes to go. So wrapping up, I'm popping back over to Facebook, and I'm doing this screen share thing so I get this really cool space effect happening. It replicates the screen, and that's why you're seeing this repeated and repeated and repeated in the background. But hopefully this is helpful for you. If you're watching this in playback and you're looking for someone to help you on LinkedIn, do keep in mind I do work with individuals. I do provide individual and group training on LinkedIn. If you're a job seeker, I know money's tight and you have to be very careful of how you're spending your money and your resources. I do offer multiple, opportunities to hear me live at upcoming events. I'm going to be at the Southfield Chamber coming up in December, and I'm doing a Mom Boss group at the end of December too, but that's a closed group. That's for female entrepreneurs. But I do frequently speak with chambers and other organizations. So, check that out. A lot of times those are free or no cost. And I do try to do Facebook Lives at least once a month. So if you're watching this in playback and you're in career transition, you'd like a free profile review in the future, just leave a comment, and or you could just email me, Brenda@mellermarketing.com. I'll make a note and I'll include you in the round for next time. But other than that, if you're watching this and you're looking for help on optimizing your LinkedIn strategy, this is what I do, and this is what I love to do for the clients I work with, whether those are individuals who are in career transition, who are considering a career transition, or if you want to use LinkedIn as a brand ambassador for your organization. And I can kind of help you unlock the power of LinkedIn and make it so it's not so scary and intimidating, and you're really using it for the tool that you want it to be. I do encourage everyone to connect with me on LinkedIn. Message me if you have any questions.